Welcome to episode 144 of Star Wars and Scotch. This is the episode all about Ahsoka, episode 4, and the episode where Tim doesn't put his microphone in his coffee.
Yeah. Good morning.
Yeah, we tried this once, and then Tim put his microphone in his, I don't know if he was stirring it or like thinking it was a biscuit or something. I'm not really 100% sure, but
I'm sure that'll be a good blooper for TikTok.
we got it. Anyway, yeah, so this episode was a thing. It had things in it, and we're going to discuss all the things.
You're so much more excited for this. It was a good episode, but you're like super pumped for this one.
I don't. I got up from the couch and turned to my wife and said, "That's how they're going to leave me. They're going to do that to me for a week." I think Dave is just spitting fire at this point. Anyway, King's Coast Coffee. We're celebrating our 6th anniversary this week. 6 years of King's Coast Coffee. Make sure you get the anniversary roast. That bag is one of the coolest bags we've ever made. I will be 100% honest with you. It's one of my favorites.
That's a good one
that I've ever seen. So make
gold.
Yeah. It's super gold, and it has the 6 on it. I don't know. It's awesome. So kingscoastcoffee.com, all of the anniversary stuff. If you go to Co-Carnage's stream too, you might even get a discount on some coffee this week as well. Which, Tim, you could use that discount if you want to.
I was about to ask, only Co?
I mean, we designed it for Co, but it's not like it's locked to him. And, Wayne didn't want to lock it to his roast. So feel free, have fun. To join the festivities. So go to Tim's YouTube channel, and he's live playing Starfield, which I haven't even started yet.
Oh, you poor thing.
I know. I hate being an adult.
I'm an adult.
Yeah, but you have like the fun adult job where you get to play Starfield and have people tell you what to do in the game the entire time.
No, they don't do that.
That's good, because that's what they would do to me.
No, they've been actually because I think I've been a little bit ahead of everybody. So it's like no one really other than base building. That's the only thing that people have been like, why are you base building yet? And just because I haven't gotten to a point where I feel comfortable already. It's very resource intensive. Anyways, we could do an entire podcast about Starfield. It's so good.
It's not this week because we got stuff to talk about. Head over to kingscoastcoffee.com, go to Tim's stream, go to Co-Stream, and maybe you can get a special little discount on your King's Coast order today. kingscoastcoffee.com. No GCX or Lab. Is there any Lab 77 coming up? Oh, Lab 77 next month, no?
Yes.
They should be paying attention?
Yes.
Yes, there's a holiday next month that Lab 77. You should just pay attention to Lab 77.
It's Halloween. We're going to have a Halloween drop. There'll be Halloween merch.
God, he's so to the point. I like mystery and ooh, what could it be? And Tim's like,
just get your wallets ready. There's going to be Halloween themed merch. So I'm not a big Halloween guy, but I know the internet is. So
you want to know something about? And we're going to say this, then we'll dive into Ahsoka. I have to say this: all you Halloween people get so pissed if we put our Christmas trees up by November 1st. But September 1st, you're all like, it's spooky season. Oh my, I get 2 full months, but you don't. Look, I have no problem with you liking Halloween. I do not like Halloween. I'm not a fan. It's just edgelord central. It's like Hot Topic the holiday. If you're allowed to start celebrating on September 1st, I'm allowed to put my Christmas tree up November 1st. Let's just have some sort of armistice agreement where we can both be happy. You can get all spooky on September 1st and drink your pumpkin, whatever you want. And I can put my Christmas tree up November 1st and start putting up lights and making foods and using cinnamon in my cooking. Okay? Cool? Are we? Thank you. This is my only platform left, Tim. I had to use it to do that.
Okay, Kevin.
That was it.
All right, you good? You feel better, champ?
I do.
Okay.
I'm just going to sip more of this delicious King's Coast coffee before we move on to episode 4 of Ahsoka, which Tim apparently didn't think was a big deal. And
No. I didn't say that I don't think it was a big deal. It's just you seemed very, very hyped about it. Whereas for me, I'm like, that was very interesting. I thought that was cool. But there's a lot of unanswered things left where I'm just like, I would like for us to, I feel like we're hurling ourselves towards the thing that I really want, but at the same time, I find myself lacking information, and I need to know more.
I think as of last night, Star Wars as a universe has changed forever.
Yes, I agree.
And we're not going back. And if you go on the internet, it is the first time I've seen some of the very vocal haters of Star Wars say, we're back on track. This is my Star Wars. All of that stuff. The entire internet, aside from maybe one or two people, was like, oh my gosh, yes. So
it was a banger of an episode.
let's start with other things about the internet. Marok is nobody.
God, he was just a ghost.
Well, I think he was being held to. I think he was reanimated by Night Sister magic.
Yeah, 100%. That was all dark magic. He was a zombie essentially.
So, which leads us to believe, though, that he could have essentially been the Inquisitor that Ahsoka killed.
Could have been. Yeah, it could have been the eighth brother.
Yeah,
Could have been the one that was killed.
Sixth,
I mean, like
sixth was the one that was killed. Eighth is the one I meant to say last
yeah,
week, and I said
the eighth.
sixth.
I liked your eighth brother idea. I thought that was really solid.
But it would make sense that it would be the one that Ahsoka killed that was reanimated by Morgan, and then
Maybe.
that's who this is. Either way, it doesn't matter. And
I'm just glad it's not Cal Kestis. So all the people are like,
oh my god, people were making.
Because you could wear his Inquisitor, because the Inquisitor outfit that you get at the end of the game.
guys, that was the biggest stretch I've ever seen you guys make. And when I mean you guys, I mean the internet as a whole. Sorry if you feel like I'm attacking you personally. No, but the Star Wars internet fandom as a whole all jumped on the Cal Kestis train yet again, because they just really want this guy to show up in live action. And I totally understand. I respect your want to see Cal in live action. It would definitely work. I think it'll be great. Wrong time. It wouldn't have worked. None of that made sense. I thought that was the strangest thing ever.
He'd also be like 50,
Yeah, it'd be old.
which doesn't work for Cameron Monaghan.
The whole night, but if you want to wrap this in with Jedi Fallen Order, this is the exact same dark magic, the same Night Sister magic that you see with what's her face when she brings all the Night Sisters back to life. Same idea.
Mother Talzin.
No. The one from the video game. What's her name?
Oh my God.
Right?
It's on the tip of my tongue.
Marin.
Marin, thank you.
So when Marin brings all of the Night Sisters that are dead in their cocoons back to life, same idea. I think we can kind of all agree that this was just zombie Inquisitor brought back to life, not Cal Kestis.
I like to think it was the one that Ahsoka killed as some sort of, revenge or something along those lines. And if I recall, and I could be completely wrong in my recollection of this, isn't that the same move she pulled on the Inquisitor?
I was about to ask. I was like, I feel like if you watch Tales of the Jedi, the whole spinning when it pans out, the fire's in the background, and Ahsoka's standing there, and the Inquisitor's standing there. I'm pretty sure he fires up the propeller, and then she cuts him the same way. So yeah, I think that's fair. I have to go back and watch that scene, but I'm pretty sure that's how it happens.
If that's how it happens, correct us if we're wrong. It's essentially the homage to Maul's death at the hands of Obi-Wan, which was...
I don't think that has anything to do with Obi-Wan.
I think it was just like a nod.
Oh, I thought that was just a going back to Tales of the Jedi with Ahsoka.
Right, but it's the same way that the killing blow was landed by baiting him the same exact way that he did Qui-Gon. I would see it as a nod to that, because I recognize that whole sequence, and I'm pretty sure that's where I saw it was Tales of the Jedi. So either way, Ahsoka, the Inquisitors ain't got shit on her. We can just leave it at that.
I would like to say that all of the fight sequences in this game in this episode were very heavy in kendo. All of the moves were very you notice that Ahsoka never used two blades. She only ever used one. All the stances very, very kendo-esque. It was just there was so much Japanese influence, going back to Star Wars roots of samurai movies. And leaning hard into that Japanese influence. All of the fight sequences just felt so good, and it still felt very Star Wars. But the entire episode was just so heavy in that kendo action. I loved every fight. Whoever choreographed those fights, they did an amazing job.
They even went hard in the music. It seems that Dave really wants Ahsoka on this samurai Ronin style.
Ahsoka is like you said, is the yin to the Mando yang, where it's like Mando is the the cowboy influence, the Western influence that you get in Star Wars, and Ahsoka is the Japanese influence that you get in Star Wars. And when these two come together, you've got the perfect balance of what everything Star Wars is. And so, like, I think that's what's going to happen is, like, you have these two very, very different characters and shows, and then you bring them together for that movie that he wants.
Yeah. It was interesting to see her fight Balin too, because Balin's style is he's got that Dooku style of almost.
He's very heavy-handed,
Claymore-ish.
Right, and Dooku was fencing.
Fencing, yeah, you're right.
Dooku was very, very light, and especially if you go back to the way that even like the way that his lightsaber hilt is designed is very much so that he can have like the flicks and stuff. Whereas Balin's very heavy. Again, very, very much so. Like a heavy stands for a katana, you know, where he comes up high and he like holds it here, and then Ahsoka like brings her lightsaber down low. And all of that was just like, again, it looked like I was watching a kendo match. It was so cool.
Yeah, it was, and Balin likes to use the environment too, and push you into places that you don't want to be, in corners, and back you up against things.
Yeah, I'd said it on Twitter. I mean, Balin is becoming my favorite Star Wars character, and you and I were talking this before we started recording, but it's so sad knowing that Rey is no longer with us, and so that character doesn't get to live on. It will have to come to an end, and that sucks because Balin is very, very quickly becoming my new favorite Star Wars character because he's just like he's not entirely bad. He's not your pure villain. He's not a good guy. You know, there's trauma there. He's gone through shit. He's a survivor, and he's doing everything that he can to bring on this new thing. I don't know what he wants to herald. But I mean, if we play off of the Nordic influence on their names, they are the two wolves that bring forth Ragnarok. And so, like, you know, like what are they heralding? I'm because it's more than Thrawn. He even says it's more than that. There's something more. And so, god damn, this like that line right there really hooked me. I realized there was so much more to this.
There's that, and then when he said, I think it was last week or the week before, and he was talking about power. So I'm trying to put the pieces together and figure it, but I have a feeling it's something we know nothing about. I think Dave is literally reinventing the wheel here, and being Dave. To me, Dave is I don't know if you saw the thing I retweeted from that amazing person that tweeted the meme that said Dave is not effing around. And it was him like smiling in a picture, and then it showed someone writing with fire on their pen and fire all over there. And I think Dave is at the point, you know, I think we've taken Star Wars George's version to the limits. And I think Dave is at the point where he has George's vision. He knows what he needs to do, and then he has his own vision with characters like Ahsoka that he created that are now like, we're going to break new barriers. We're going to break new ground. We're going to go places we've never been. We're going to do things you know nothing about. So the idea that there's lore to support where the show is headed, I think is just crumple it up and throw it out the window for the most part, because I think we're reinventing or exploring new ground in Star Wars that we've never even dreamt of covering. And I think we will see nods to Legends. I think we'll see nods to Old Republic, you know, but there is something out there besides Thrawn, besides Ezra, besides the Night Sisters, you know, potential homeworld. There's something else. And I think that's how this season is going to end. That's going to be our cliffhanger, is whatever's out there is coming. And it could be that, like, it could be the version of Thrawn that you said, Tim, where he's actually wanting to stop whatever's coming.
Yeah.
Ahsoka dropped the heir to the Empire episode or line in this episode too. That was interesting. Straight up. I mean, we knew that was coming.
We've heard that line before. It's nothing special.
Yep. So a lot of things are changing rapidly in Star Wars, and I think the community is actually, for the most part, here for it, because we're kind of sick of, you know, reinventing the wheel. If we're not getting Old Republic, like, fine, let's change the story. Let's do something different. Let's go somewhere new. And I think that's what this is. Like, even those droids on the Eye of Sion, they are ancient, dude. Those are old droids. Like, I remember droids like that when you would do dungeons and stuff in the Old Republic, and you'd talk to these droids that look like that, talk like that, those old communicator devices that sound like rusty and like they haven't been used in years. So I don't know. Dave is doing something, and I remember sitting there this episode. I was like, I have no idea where this is headed. I couldn't make a prediction if I tried to. When Sabine was fighting Shin, I was like, I don't know how do they play this? Ahsoka falling off. I was like, she could leap back up, but that'd be so cheesy and like not very Filoni.
Yeah, I didn't see. We'll cover the ending here in a bit, but I definitely didn't see it going that way. I thought of the more traditional Star Wars, like, the hero pops back up and it's like, oh no, I have this thing that I have to figure out, and none of that happened. It was completely out of left field.
We saw Hera leading Phoenix Squadron, and we know Phoenix Squadron is the squad she leads at the end of Rise of Skywalker. Mm-hmm. So now we know Carson Teva's in Phoenix Squadron as well, which was great to see him up to his old.
I was really hoping we were going to see Zeb.
I think we will still. I just think the time is not right to see Zeb yet. That would have been a good moment, but at the same time, I think we need to like actually see Zeb. I have a feeling we won't see Zeb maybe even this season. It's
maybe possible. I don't know. I mean, like Phoenix Squadron kind of got into some shit. So, I mean, like for him to show back up again could totally happen. I mean, like Tifa knows him.
Yes. Yeah, they're friends. So, and obviously Hera does too, and she's the leader of Phoenix Squadron. But the big thing is Hera's going to be in big trouble when she goes back to her ship.
She's got some explaining to do to the senators. And to Mon Mothma.
Senator Ziono is not going to be happy about this one.
Yeah, but I think she'll pitch it up in a way where it's going to be understood that there's a huge threat. Like we ran into this massive warp gate and they fired off and we don't know where they're going. I would assume like Hera and Ahsoka will end up teaming back up together to go save Sabine. Now knowing that Sabine is on the warp gate. I think
also that gate. Did you watch Stargate, the shows at all? Did that not feel like a gate address, like unlocking as they were doing? Yeah, that's what I felt like every time.
Yeah. It's like it's so funny. Like you go back to like those old computers and like the processing time that it took for them to get that coordinate. It just took a little long. And like I think that was the best part. It was just like all of this futuristic technology, and it still takes a freaking forever to download this warp cord.
But it's 70s futuristic. That's the best part.
Yeah, very much. Yeah, it's old tech. It's really good. It's like old analog shit.
That was one of the things I hated about the prequels was they tried to update the look of the technology, and I'm like, you can't go backwards and forwards. Like,
well, I mean, like that's still my biggest complaint with Survivor is the whole High Republic tech that you find, and none of that makes any sense to me. So hopefully this can kind of start to explain some of that, maybe.
Yeah, I
don't know, but yeah, it's like they did a great job of making this feel very different from Star Wars, but still feeling very like this. Sorry, the Star Wars galaxy that we know. I'm putting my cards on the table, like my chips on the table, and betting that this technology is from that galaxy that they're going to.
100%.
There is nothing about that tech that screams, oh yeah, that's definitely from Star Wars. It's just like the stuff in High Republic. None of that looked like, oh yeah, that's definitely Star Wars tech. None of that looked familiar to me. None of it felt Star Wars. It felt so alien. And so I'm very excited to see if any of that ties into the storytelling in any way.
If there's a connection to the Rakata, I would say that this is Rakatan technology because they were the forerunners of this universe. You know, you have the forerunners in Halo.
Right.
The Rakata are essentially the forerunners of the Star Wars universe. So I would say if there's a connection to the Rakata where we're going, it would be Rakatan technology. Obviously, we know Rakata are canon now. Well, I don't know how they marry that with the Zepho, by the way, but we'll figure that out down the road. Dave's got it under control. But that would be my ultimate guess here. You know, there could also be, you know, a link here, and this is my outlandish theory of the week, which we should make this a segment, by the way. Kevin's insane theory of the week when there's a Star Wars show. Like the theory we
make
both
the show all about you.
the thing we both know. It's more like I'm amusing, like I'm a clown, Tim. Like haha, look at Kevin, that's a dumb theory type of thing. Like it's a chance for you to really lean into me and just absolutely give it to me.
No, here we go. All right, Star Wars and Kevin is brought to you by Star Wars and Kevin. Fire away, Kevin.
There could be a link here to the Star Forge, which goes back to my theory about Exegol and the Star Forge, if you remember from previous episodes.
I don't think that's your theory. I think that's a Star Wars theory.
I said it before everybody else.
Oh, here we go.
Go back and listen.
Star Wars and Kevin.
But there could be a link here to the Star Forge. Morgan, the shipbuilder, all of this stuff could go back to the Star Forge. Star maps, Old Republic. So we'll see.
I mean, wasn't there an Old Republic thing that dropped this week where they actually got like essentially canonized?
Which one?
I don't know. There was something that people I saw it on the internet and I didn't look at it. There was an Old Republic. There was an Old Republic drop that this can get edited out. Hold on a second. Old Republic, Star Wars. Let me pull it up real quick.
All right.
Star Wars describes the Old Republic in canon for the first time.
I think that was last week. No?
No, this was August.
Oh, no,
it was last week. Star Wars timeline is now. Let's see. Where did this show up?
It was on the Star Wars website, I believe.
It was, yeah. However, the Star Wars timeline is now on StarWars.com website as part of the franchise's official databank. The timeline listing offers the description of the Old Republic era in canon. Here it is. The Republic is founded among the worlds of the Galactic Core. The Jedi Order emerges to protect it. A scheme within the Jedi leads to the creation of the Sith in this epic era. So for them to do more and more Old Republic tie-ins right now, currently, makes a lot of sense.
I'm also reading Rise of the Red Blade, and this main character has no idea what race she is, and they're describing her as red-skinned and all this stuff, and I'm like, are you a pureblood Sith? They won't tell her. The Jedi won't tell her what race she is. Everyone says they don't know. They say they found her as a child, and she has no idea what her origins are. And the only thing that's thrown me off the beaten path is when they go to Geonosis for the end of Attack of the Clones. She's like, oh, the desert, the skin bothers me. So that would throw us off of the Moraband, Korriban path, because that's where they're supposed to come from. But I find it interesting, and I'll read more of the book, and some of you probably finished it and know the answer to this question. But if she's a pureblood Sith, that's another huge nod to the Old Republic. On top of that, the existence of pureblood Sith in the current era is something that also shouldn't be a thing. So it'd be very interesting to see how, this all adds up and this all plays out. One other big drop of information before we really get into the meat and potatoes is the mention of Sabine's family.
Oh my God, yeah. So we know that they got glassed.
They were there on the Purge of Mandalore. Which I think it was a safe assumption from the beginning as to why Sabine isn't home with them and whatnot. But it's interesting. It really is.
Well, the interesting part I don't think was as much that knowing that they died on Mandalore during the Night of a Thousand Tears. The part that I found to be very interesting was when Balin says to Sabine after he reads her mind, which I thought was sick because he just so effortlessly just read her mind and grabbed all of the information that he needed from her. But when he says that your master didn't trust you, and I'm really, really curious to know what bad blood is there between Sabine and Ahsoka, and what did Ahsoka say to Sabine that made her not go to Mandalore?
Yeah.
Or what could have happened if Ahsoka would have listened to Sabine? What could have happened to Mandalore if? So now I'm really, really curious to figure out more of the dynamic relationship that we find ourselves in between these two, because it is changing constantly. You see it twice in this episode, where it goes from Ahsoka not not truly trusting her, asking her if she can trust her. Sabine says yes. Ahsoka kind of lets her guard down a little bit, asks her to do something again, and then is let down. And so it's just like this constant battle between these two of they can't trust each other.
Yeah.
And what happened?
Yeah,
I really want to know.
Was there an event or something that led to this distrust? You know, and it seems like it's on Ahsoka's side, to be honest, because she's the one that even says to Huyang that she walked away. So it seems to be like it's an Ahsoka problem, not a Sabine problem. But I mean, I have a feeling we'll learn more as everything goes on. One of the interesting things too was, well, first I want to give a nod to Huyang, who can fight. I did not expect that.
I really liked that fight scene. I thought that was really cool. It was fun to watch an HK droid fight a very ancient Jedi droid. That was really cool.
So, I mean,
I was really hoping he was going to whip a lightsaber out, though. I was really hoping that the Master Jedi guy was going to whip out a lightsaber.
He probably doesn't keep them on him, though, so that would.
I don't know. Sense. I mean, like the whole purpose of him is to teach younglings how to build a lightsaber and fight with lightsabers.
True.
I'm hoping that at some point, and now knowing that he has freaking 4 arms, he's got the little ones that come out over his shoulders. I'm hoping at some point we'll get like a General Grievous like spinny action.
You know who's voicing him, right?
Oh, I saw it and I don't remember. It's not Taika Waititi.
It's David Tennant.
It's the guy from he's Doctor Who.
Yeah, he was one of the newer Doctor Who's. He was I think he was the second, and he's the current Doctor. He was my favorite Doctor. Yeah, no, he's the one who's voicing Huyang, and I love him as because I can hear that his little twang in the voice, like it's not just the one we know from the cartoon. So
very good.
It was good. Morgan, one other thing I wanted to mention, and you're probably going to know more about this from the Thrawn novels than I will, but Morgan mentions, or is Balin? I can't remember one of them, when they're having a discussion about the coordinates having to be exact, they mentioned being lost to the void.
I think he just meant the void of space. Like he's talking about the space between
the galaxies.
Is
that the chaos?
No.
Okay.
I think he's literally speaking of space in between galaxies. Like that is a void. There is nothing there. It is the space in between two galaxies is nothing.
Okay.
And so I think that's what he means. He's like, if you get this wrong and we just go careening through the cosmos, like that's going to suck for everybody.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure.
That's how I took it. Because the chaos still is that boundary between the outer rim and everything else that's out there.
Well, in Legends, there is a void between galaxies and space and whatnot, and
I mean that could be what they're referring to, but I took that as a literal void.
Yeah, I don't know if that means black hole that sucks you in. I don't know if that means like
no. I mean like
just a hazardous area.
I think
of space.
he just means like the unexplored regions of space that nothing exists.
Yeah,
the interstellar space. I think that's what he means is interstellar space.
Gotcha. Wanted to get your 2 cents.
I took that literally. I didn't take that as a figurative like we're gonna go to the void, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, what the fuck is the void?" It's like I don't think the void is anything other than just darkness.
Well, in Legends, it's described, and I'm quoting, as extremely hazardous. End quote.
Well, I would assume that. Yeah, I would say that interstellar space is pretty hazardous.
It's hard to wrap.
You don't know which way you're
around.
going. You don't know which way up is down. I mean, like it's just dark. It's just black. It's just there's nothing there. Millions of light years between one place to the next.
Well, all right. It's time for the meat and potatoes. But before that, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. Okay, here we go.
All right.
So they tried to trick us right off the bat at the end there. And the ripples against
I gotta say, the cinematography for that was really, really well done. The whole the transition from like the waves crashing against the rocks to then like these waves that are rippling off of Ahsoka, like Like that was wicked. And I really didn't think that we were gonna end up in the world between worlds, like right off the rip. Like it was, and I have so many questions now. Like, how was she able to just magically transport herself? Like she falls and does like a portal open up and just whoop, like falls through? Is it the Force manipulating the world around her that allows her to go into that? There are so many mechanics that have yet to still be explained with this world between worlds. And I really hope that we get an explanation for that at some point, because we saw in Rebels, and Ezra had to go through a portal. Ezra went through a portal that was on a wall, and that made more sense to me than Ahsoka falling off of a cliff and then landing in there. So that's very interesting. But I actually thought we were going to be on Mortis. When I first saw that, I was like, oh shit, we're back on Mortis, and the father and the son are going to show up, because the daughter is Ahsoka. I mean, Ahsoka is essentially part daughter, if you will, because she used her life force to bring Ahsoka back.
And Sam Witwer, everyone's going crazy because he's, credited in the show, and he is the voice of the brother, if I remember correctly.
He's the voice of a couple people.
So that would make sense too from that perspective. I knew it was the veil as soon as they panned out to her face a little bit, because I started seeing the cosmic ripples and noticed they weren't waves, and I was like, "Here we go, this is it."
Yeah, I was really hoping. I was, a part of me really wanted the Mortis,
Sure,
storyline to continue, because I really want to see those effects. I want to know more about like how do those characters play in, because when we leave on Rebels, they are a big part into just opening the portal. The whole like just changing their hands and manipulating all of the mural on the cave, that opened up the portal. That all of those actions netted us the ability to go into the world between worlds. So I still think there is a heavy influence with the brother and the father. I just don't know what that is yet.
back to the world against worlds. Sorry, we needed a vacuum was happening, and then a pee break, and then I refilled my coffee. So if you're watching this on video and you're like, how did Kevin's coffee cup get filled up instantly? It is not space magic. We actually did take a quick break because of a vacuum in my house going off. Hopefully it doesn't happen again, but we'll see. So back to Ahsoka, the world between worlds, that whole scenario. So when she stood up and you hear, hey, Snips.
Hey, Snips. I'm just like, oh, shit, we're going to get Force Ghost Anakin.
At first I thought it was just an echo in the Force. You know how like when you're in there, but when you're in there, you've seen it. Like they can hear things.
Well, yeah, I agree. We've been dealing with a lot of like echoes. In episode 1, you can apparently hear Maul.
What the
hell? You hear the Maul echo from the Rebels Obi-Wan fight, and it's the line that Sam does where it's like, "Is he the chosen one?" That is there. I went back and listened. I was going through TikTok, and someone was doing a live stream like podcast, and their chat goes, go to 9 minutes in, and you'll hear Darth Maul. The guy goes and does it. He's like, oh shit, he cranked his volume up and you hear it. And it's just like these little Easter eggs of just like voices. Again, back to Morgan. Morgan hears the echoes and she thinks it's Thrawn. It's more than that. I think we're gonna be dealing with this the entire season of all these little echoes that play into this world between worlds and all these different timelines that could potentially happen. Very Doctor Strange. I've seen 16 million different possibilities. It's going to be nuts.
I am like, I got off last night, and like I said before, and to Danielle, and she's like, what happened? I was like, I don't want to ruin it for you. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, that was probably the biggest cliffhanger in the history of Star Wars
huge.
television.
It was a huge cliffhanger. I agree.
And definitely not the biggest reveal, because obviously Luke, I am your father will never be topped. Place and time, when it happened, the amount of secrecy they had to use when they filmed it, you'll never top that.
Unfortunately, this got leaked though last night.
Oh, I didn't see a leak.
I was on Twitter after stream, and hashtag Anakin was trending. And I was like, oh no. So I don't know if it's like officially like it was leaked last night, but there was definitely hints that Anakin was coming in this episode. And there was also you had mentioned this last week. You had said that this was going to be a throwback episode, right?
Next episode.
The next episode's a throwback. That makes even more sense.
The next episode is supposed to be a throwback. It's supposed to be the longest episode of the entire show. And again, this is all rumor and conjecture, so please do not take this as gospel. It's supposed to be throwback. It's supposed to be the longest episode of the show, and it's supposed to have like the biggest ramifications for everything aside from the finale. That's the rumor. Again, take it with a grain of salt. Do not take what I'm saying. This is the rumor mill. The rumor mill has been wrong, but a lot of the people that are citing this are people that are usually right. So that's the only reason I'm bringing it up on the show. Talk to me, Tim. Why is this a specific version of Anakin in the world between worlds? And before you speak, I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
Is this Anakin of the living force, or is this Anakin during Revenge of the Sith entering the world between worlds, specifically to Ahsoka, who has left the Jedi Order already?
Okay,
that's part of the reason I'm freaking out.
So there's a few things that could be very, very interesting with this. That we'll have to first, before we do anything. That's not Force Ghost Anakin. I don't think so. Like, all of the Force Ghosts that we've seen have been blue and translucent. This is a physical embodiment of Anakin Skywalker this is the same attire that we see him in the last season of Clone Wars. Go to the Anakin episodes when he's talking to Padme, he's talking to Ahsoka before Order 66. This is the same. It's the same attire. It's the same outfit. It's the same outfit we see him in Episode 3. So
no scar.
Right, exactly. There's a lot of things here that I think this is going to be Ahsoka's trial. Ahsoka hasn't had a trial yet by the Force. The Force tries everyone, right?
Yes.
And correct me if I'm wrong. Ahsoka hasn't gone through that trial, the facing your ghosts and reliving going through those like traumatic experiences. Like Luke in the cave with Vader.
Mm-hmm.
Or Yoda with the Wills. I don't think we've seen, or even like Obi-Wan facing Anakin. Like, that was Obi-Wan's trial. And yet I don't think Ahsoka has had that yet. So this could potentially be her trial. But I don't think that this is Anakin getting like removed from time and space and thrown in there by like the Emperor. That doesn't make sense to me. That would be a really weird swing for Dave to make. But at the same time, I think everything's been thrown out the window at this point too. So I'm gonna go ahead and say, first of all, Hayden Christensen with all of the time reversal stuff looks weird as shit. I did not like that. It looked like they took the character out of Star Wars Battlefront and just like plopped him in the show. I thought it was a little weird, a little jarring for me. I was expecting older Hayden Christensen. But yeah, I don't think this is like time manipulation by the Emperor. We know that the Emperor was able to see into the world between worlds, but he never got in there. You know, like he blasts his force fire at them. You know, he was like grabbing Ezra. So like the Emperor could interact with the world between worlds, but he never actually got in there, it seems. I do not think this is time travel. I don't think this is Anakin getting thrown into the world between worlds from like the end of Episode 2 going into Episode 3. I don't believe that at all.
Well, the whole purpose of the end of Rebels when Ezra is in there is to stop the Emperor, because the Emperor gets in there, it's game over. He wins, like
exactly.
No questions asked.
And they even said that multiple times, is that like if he was to take over, it would be done. Like everything he would win.
Yeah.
So they stopped that from happening. So I still don't think that this is any type of manipulation from the darks, like from dark side users or the immortal emperor or anything like that. I think this could potentially be, it could be the brother, taking on a different form, maybe. I'm gonna go ahead and say that this is Ahsoka's trial. This is the beginning of Ahsoka's trial, and the Force is testing her. But it's not a Force ghost. That is not Force ghost Anakin. That's not the person that we see at the end of Return of the Jedi.
There's too many just different things about him to make him like the usual Force ghost.
I mean, like he does like a wink too, and I'm like that right there was kind of like, it kind of threw me off a little bit. There was a few things where I was like, I don't know how, I'm not sure who this is. It's Anakin, but it's not Anakin.
So we could essentially say that the two theories for Star Wars and Scotch would be one, that this is the Wills testing Ahsoka the same way they tested Luke, the same way they tested Yoda, or this is Anakin has found a way to step through the world between worlds during Revenge of the Sith. But looks like before Order 66, but there's no scar. That's what throws me off on that one.
That scar is from.
He gets that. I believe he gets it during Attack of the Clones. No.
Yes, that's his fight with Dooku.
Yeah.
He didn't have a scar? Man, now I need to go back and look.
I'm looking at it here. You want the article?
No. I was just going to bring up the episode real quick. Sorry, Nick. This is going to be a lot of like going back and forth. You can cut the fat out, bud.
Ventress gives him his scar.
Well, he had already had that scar in episode 3, so I think we assumed that he just got...
It's Ventress. I just looked it up. Ventress gives him the scar.
I just want to look at this at the...
You can look, but there's no scar.
Right, no, there's a scar there. What are you talking about, Kevin?
I have the literally...
Dude, I'm telling you, there's a scar on his face, on his right eye. It's right there. There is a scar. It's not well lit, but I'm telling you, there is a scar that goes from the eyebrow corner all the way down.
Scroll down to 2 there.
Kevin, I'm literally looking at it. I'm screenshotting this.
Screenshot it, because I don't see it in the pictures that I'm looking at.
Oh, you can't screenshot the Disney player. These sons of bitches, they knew.
Hold on. Anakin. Ahsoka. I'm looking for other pictures now because the 2 that I have no scar in them.
I'm telling you, the people who are telling you there is no scar are high. They're not looking. I'm telling you, there is a dark line. It's just not well lit because it's dark in there. But there is a line that goes down the right side of his face on the corner of his eye from the top of his eyebrow all the way underneath his eye. There is a scar there. That is 100% a perfect representation of Anakin in episode 3 or the ending of Clone Wars. It is just not well lit. You really have to look. But there is a distinct line down his face. And I will die on that hill. That is a scar. That is his scar.
So then, assuming that the scar is there, then that brings us back to, did Anakin find a way to enter to talk to her? Why?
No.
Why?
Why? How would he know about this?
Why wouldn't he know about this?
No. That's bullshit. No. Because he's Anakin doesn't mean he's all knowing.
I'm not saying he's all knowing, but it's not like.
But this is something that they find out about after he becomes Vader. And there's a reason why the Vader theme plays at the very end. When the screen goes black, it even says in the freaking subtitles, Vader's theme.
No, I saw that. I heard
it. there is something about this that I think is going to tie us into the ending of Clone Wars. Remember, this is all Dave's playground with the ending of Clone Wars and Rebels. The Clone Wars, the last season was essentially Rebels. It was essentially like the lead into Rebels. And so I think I really, really believe that this is going to be a dark presence of some sort that is going to try to manipulate Ahsoka. Because go back to what Balin said. Balin said there's something more. Or whatever his line was when he's talking to Ahsoka. He's like, no, there's when he's talking about Thrawn starting a war, and Ahsoka's like, you want to start another war? And he's like, Thrawn will start the war. I'm looking at bigger things. There's some that I think Anakin's presence ties into what Balin was talking about. There's something dark about this. This isn't Anakin turned to the light. This is Anakin when we find him on Mustafar.
I don't think you can throw that theory out. That's all I'm saying. I understand you don't like it or agree with it. I just don't think
but
the evidence is sitting there in front of you.
How would he get in there?
How did Ezra get in there?
Because he went through. Okay, all right. Because he found the temple.
Bingo.
So you think because he is the chosen one, because he was supposed to be the what's the word I'm looking for? He was supposed to be the focal point of the Force. He was supposed to become the new father figure. He was supposed to be the balance between good and evil. He just all of a sudden then knows how to manipulate time and space and just walk right through. So the only way that would work is if at some point before Order 66, before the Emperor turns him into Darth Vader, there was a moment in time where he was able to walk through a portal and then he finds Ahsoka.
He does a lot of things that we don't see between the movies. We had 7 seasons of Clone Wars of his adventures between 2 of the movies. You're trying to tell me that there's no shot in hell that at some point Anakin found a portal or that the Force guided him? For Christ's sake, when he gets to Mortis, it's just because they're flying through space. There's no rhyme or reason for why they get to Mortis other than they were being tested.
Let's look at this from a timeline perspective. This interaction, because of what Ahsoka knows, let's roll this all back. Ezra looking through the portal at Kanan.
Yes.
He could have ripped Kanan Jarrus out to save his master.
Yes.
But it would have killed everybody on the ship.
Yes, including him.
So, knowing everything that Ahsoka knows of what's going to happen to Anakin, this could be the redemption. She could save Anakin from everything, and tell him all of the terrible things that he did, which could essentially be a redemption. But then you throw out all of Star Wars at that point. At that very point, this interaction, if that's actually Anakin from before episode 3, you ruin Star Wars. You literally delete everything and you restart. It's a reboot.
You're assuming his intentions, though. That's right.
I highly doubt that he's going in there with a nefarious intent to kill her. Why would he go?
I don't think he's there to kill her.
What do you think he's there to do?
I don't know, and that's what I keep saying is we keep trying to predict that all of this stuff is happening, and the only thing we've been able to predict so far is Corellia and that the world between worlds could potentially be in the show. That's all we got, and Anakin showing up, but everyone knew that. So those are the only things we've been able to predict. I'm saying I don't know why he's there, but
I've watched way too much Back to the Future to know that this caused way too many ripple effects. It would completely deviate all of the entire Star Wars timeline. If Ahsoka does, if that is Anakin from episode 3, and she has any type of interaction with him, it throws everything off.
But it's in the world between worlds, Tim. It's not happening in the past.
No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, right, exactly. But it still manipulates time. The world between worlds is a from what Dave has said, it is a viewing glass into all things in past, present, and future.
Right.
And so if this is past Anakin and you were to then reinsert him back into his timeline, into the very moment that he came through the portal, you put him back in, but then he had the entire interaction with Ahsoka that completely changes everything that happened. Think about if Marty McFly interacted with Marty McFly, or if Marty McFly interacted with Doc Brown. In what happens when Marty interacts with Doc Brown? Doc Brown doesn't die. Doc Brown saves himself.
Yes.
But the entire reason that Marty went back in time not the original reason, but what happens when Marty goes back in time is that he saves Doc Brown.
Right. So
It changes the time. It changes the timeline.
The Twin Pine model becomes the Lone Pine becomes.
There are
There
are little ripple effects that were changed. Like Marty created ripples in time.
But how do you know we haven't already
everything around him?
That they didn't map out the ripples already. That's what I'm saying. Like you're saying it objectively from Tim, believe that things will change. How do we know that the things didn't change because of this? Like that what has already played out happened because of this, and there's a reason behind it that we won't know until next week. How do you know that?
So then your argument goes back to what Alex said, is that it always happened that way. Like Ahsoka walking away. But that is such a huge stretch. In my opinion, when it comes to something like that, like Ahsoka walking away from that fight already happened. Like when Ahsoka walks away from the Vader fight, you're like, how the fuck did she survive that? We come to find out later on, Dave wrote it into the World Between Worlds. Did he already have that planned? I have no idea. But I have a hard time believing that everything that happens after episode 3 was because of this interaction. Because that means that this always happens. This was going to happen regardless. So everything that happens, episode 4 and onwards, is because of this interaction then.
Might not
That's
be because
wild.
of it, but it could play into it is all I'm saying. And I'm not saying your Will's theory is wrong. I think that actually makes more sense. I'm just saying you can't discount the fact.
What would stop her from killing this motherfucker? Why wouldn't she? Why wouldn't she kill him? I would kill him.
Because it's Anakin. Why?
I understand, but
Obi-Wan couldn't do it. Why could she do it?
You know of all of the... because Ahsoka's a very different person than Obi-Wan, though.
Right, but you saw how excited she was to see him?
Yeah, but I don't know, dude. There is... That would be very hard for me. Knowing the things that I know, if I'm going to put myself in Ahsoka's shoes. If I was Ahsoka and I saw the one person that meaned the entire world to me, but at the same time, I know that I could stop genocide. I could stop him from doing all of those evil things. It would do everything in my power to make sure that didn't happen.
But this is not the go back in time and kill Hitler scenario. This is the go back in time and kill Hitler who happened to be your best friend scenario. Like it's
I understand that,
different
but if your best
scenario.
friend was Hitler, would you still take him out?
It is
knowing
easy
what you know?
It is easy for Tim and Kevin to say yes because that was not our best friend. His best friend, I can't tell you what they would say or think because that is a very, very, very difficult decision.
Yeah, but she's already made that decision. She's made that decision before. They fought on the what was the planet they were on?
But you also have to remember that even Anakin differentiates Anakin from Vader. They're two different people. I know they're not, but you know what I'm trying to get at here. So there is a differentiation between Anakin and Darth Vader in a very poetic sense. I'm not saying
very
physically.
much
So if she's talking to Anakin, who is not Vader wearing the mask and all of that stuff and trying to turn her to the dark side.
His eyes aren't different either. I mean, his eyes are before he turns into Darth Vader too.
Right. I mean, like there's not much time.
I'm looking at the frame when they turn to him and he looks so soft and he looks so friendly and he looks loving. Everything about his composure in this shot really does bring home the character that you see in the animated series, because this type of Anakin was never portrayed very, very well in the movies. But Anakin in the Clone Wars was a completely different person. And I really feel like they captured that in this shot. And so, like, yeah, at the end of the day, could this actually be physically Anakin and somehow he got hurled through time and space to meet his Padawan here? Guess we'll have to find out next week. I don't know.
And that's my point is I don't know, but you can't count that theory out because A, we have no idea what they would do with it. And B, when he got to Mortis, it was completely the Force being like, you need to be here now to deal with this situation. You know, it wasn't
But
this.
he never dealt with the situation. He turned it down.
And it got worse.
And it got worse. So, I mean, like, what is the Force trying to heal itself? Again, like, when you start throwing time travel into this, it gets messy.
The Force is always trying to balance itself constantly. That is the Force's goal, to be in balance. That's
currently the Force isn't in balance.
Anymore.
If you read in like in literature and everything else, the Force is not like this. Go back to what they're talking about in the High Republic novels right now. There is no balance in the Force. It is unbalanced at the moment.
Yes. So that is the whole point. I'm just saying you can't throw that out.
I've watched way too much Back to the Future to get on this whole time travel thing. Like, time travel gets messy.
I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing that it could get messy, but I don't think they would introduce it without a plan, obviously. And I do think it's more along the lines of it's not changing what's happened. I think it's injecting this scenario into what has already happened. Because like you said, no matter what, this happened one way or another. But it could also be the Force. It could just be the Force.
Okay, so then here's another scenario. What would have stopped him if Anakin knew how to get here? What stops Vader from getting there? Why didn't Vader go back? Why didn't Vader take the Emperor through the way that he went through?
Why can't they get back to Mortis? Because the Force did not want them to go back to Mortis. The Force does crazy things, Tim. And if the Force needed him
is messy
to be in the world between worlds at that time, then the Force made a way, just like Mortis. You're gonna tell me that the way they get to and from Mortis is any less messy than what we're describing here?
Yeah, but I mean, like, that's just like that's like man, like the Mortis thing is like a magical location that, like, when it wants to appear, it appears. Like, we've seen that in movies and in shows and in books. Like, you have these special destinations where the magic makes it so that the hero finds the place, and then once they leave, it's gone for forever. The one thing that I'm having a hard time with is just the whole space and time part.
The Force guided Ezra to the world between worlds. I would even venture to say the Force prevented or tried to prevent Palpatine from ever going in there because they knew that would be the end of everything.
I don't know. What has stopped? Like, the Force hasn't tried stopping all the other bad shit.
Because bad doesn't mean anything to the Force. It's objective. It wants balance, not good or evil. It wants balance.
So then why would the Force stop the Emperor from getting there? The Force didn't stop the Emperor. Ezra and Ahsoka stopped the Emperor from getting in there.
Because the Force let Ezra and Ahsoka in there.
Oh, I have a hard time. That's messy. I don't like using the God scenario where it's God willed it, so it was.
But you can't. How do you explain the cosmic force then, and how it operates and how it works? How do you go down that route of explaining that it does try to be in balance?
You've never had these sentient afterlife beings in
the
influence,
wills,
but they're not dead. The wills are immortal.
They're part of the cosmic force.
I understand that part. The part that I'm having a hard time with is we're going down the road of God and angels at this point, where because God doesn't like it, he will step in and change the things, but only when he feels like it. Like, that gets messy.
I don't think it's stepping
from
in
a storytelling perspective
as much as making a way for mortals to bring balance to the Force. That's my point. The ultimate goal of the Force is balance. And the Force itself can't do anything besides what we've seen, and there's restrictions.
But you just said that the Force doesn't it makes ways, but it doesn't actually influence. Is that correct?
The rules of the game seem to be that, yes, because the wills seem to be, we're preparing you for X. We're preparing you to teach Qui-Gon. We're preparing Qui-Gon to teach Yoda, to teach Obi-Wan, to come back, to show Luke the way, how to get to Yoda. Like, it's a series of events that leads to poignant moments in Star Wars where very significant things happen. And that's what brings balance at the end of the day.
I feel like removing a character from a moment in their story to interject them into this story and then throw them back into their time and be like, nothing ever happened.
But how can you justify that then against Ahsoka getting out from Malachor? Like you're making a concession here, but you won't make a concession
I'm
there.
not. Because it again. I never liked that. I liked the idea of Ahsoka dying and then Ezra coming and saving her. But Ahsoka always lived. Like we saw it from, what was that, season 2 of Rebels, but we don't get the explanation until season 4 of how she survives. Like I would have liked it to be Vader survived, Ahsoka didn't, but Ahsoka lived because Ezra made it happen. Not because it always happened that way. Like, it's just, again, we haven't had enough explanation as to how this all works and what this really is to have a better understanding of what's going to happen. Again, like, Dave has done an amazing job of playing playing what's the game with the coconuts where you put the ball underneath you? Cup game. Mm-hmm. He's doing a cup game here where he's like, you think you know what's going to happen, he shuffles things around and then it's not there anymore and you're completely confused. I don't know. And that's what we keep on saying every week is I just don't know. It was a great argument though. I think was really good.
Yeah, I mean, we could just both be wrong. It could just be, I could be wrong, and it could just be a trial. I don't care either way. I'll just be honest.
I'm
down for the ride.
Down to be wrong. I just the thing is when it comes to this, I just want better explanations of how and why and what happens after.
And you might get that,
or they use the same thing, whereas it was always this way.
We expected the status quo, and I think that's what's going to evoke the discussions all week and the things you see on TikTok. Is we expected Blue Force Ghost Anakin from the Return of the Jedi to be like, Ahsoka, I'm here to guide you and help you on your journey. I miss you, Snips. Like da 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 blah 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 blah. And that's not what we're getting. Dave has flipped the script on us and been like, you thought you knew, but you don't. That's why I don't think they cared that Anakin leaked. That it was, for all we know, they leaked it. And I don't think they cared because we're still sitting here and the internet, like, Anakin is still trending as of this morning. And I think that's the fun of it. And Dave, again, I go back to what I said at the beginning of the episode. Dave is rewriting the playbook. It's not going to be what the Star Wars we're used to. It's going to open up doors that we didn't think could get open and tell new stories that we didn't think could be told. We have speculated so many times about, they're going to focus their efforts on the High Republic. They're going to focus their efforts on the Old Republic. They're going to focus on the Skywalker saga. They're going to focus, whatever it may be, the New Republic era. And now I think Dave is like, nope, we're going to tell this story and it's going to be in a completely different way, in a completely different place, with characters, but everything, like, I'm changing how this all works. Mm-hmm. And you want to know something? For the elitist fanboys who I know will still complain about this, you don't think Dave's calling up George and being like, Georgie boy, what do you think about this?
Oh, I mean, like, isn't he already like advising on this show?
Yeah, he's got him on speed dial. You don't think George is like, yes, do this. This is great. And that's why the whole internet's probably very happy, because George wanted to get weird. He really did. The problem that George had is that he's not a director. He's a visionary. And once we let George, George is not a writer. He's a director. So when we let him write the prequels, that's when we started having issues, about the way George operated. I think George's ideas are sound. A lot of his ideas have gotten shot down by the studios and whatnot, because they're just too wacky. So I think George is now working with Dave, or Dave is just bringing George's wackiness to life. Because at this point, you can't really touch the IP. Like, you can get weird and people are going to go along with it. And then if you laid the groundwork for the weird in the cartoons, the ultra fans like us will come out and praise it, and then people like my wife will be like, what in the God's name is going on? And then they need a good nerd like us to explain it to them. So I have a feeling this is all George approved, if you will.
I assume so. I think that's fair to say.
And regardless of where we're going with this, like, it's just exciting to see the change and reinvent something that we love so much. So while some of you may hate it, I'm sorry, but this is some of the best stuff that they've put out in many, 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 many years in Star Wars. And to see it just break the canon in a good way is exciting.
Oh, it's so far off the beaten path. It's so like we've seen Tatooine so many times. You can only see I can't say that because the lightsaber fights this time were fantastic. But I mean, like, a lot of the stuff that we've seen, it feels very Star Wars. This is so, like, it's Star Wars. The wrapper says Star Wars on it, but this is so far off from what we know, and that's exciting because we get to get introduced to something that is completely new and different that we've never touched on before. And we've been waiting for this moment for so long, like since the end of Rebels. This is the continuation of that moment. And hopefully we get to learn more about what all this is.
And it's really, like you said, leaning into the samurai stuff, and we got Western with Mando, but one of the core tenets of Star Wars is that it's a fantasy story that takes place in space.
That's freaking space magic, dude.
And this is really showcasing the fantasy end. Like, this is so, epic adventure finding mystical thing in Portal. Like, it's that, and it's just exciting to see that, especially because a lot of the stories we've been told lately are about gunslingers, and we're going to play Outlaws, which is about a smuggler and whatnot. And the mystical side, I think, for a while has really, I don't want to say lost, but it really has not been front and center. Even in the High Republic, like, we get some shades of it and there's some cool stuff, but we're really not getting into that fantasy mystical side. And this is just kicking that door down and being like, hey, how you doing? Yep. So between the Night Sister magic and now this, it's just, oh my gosh, I'm very nerd. Why is my phone trying to Google Maps somewhere? I said nothing, Google. Anyway, anything else, Tim?
Yeah, that's it. It was a good episode. It left a lot of questions on the table for me, and hopefully we get some answers next week.
I would assume next week's discussion is going to be a long one too. So buckle up for that. So we will return for episode 5 next week. And to think, Tim, you only thought we were getting 6 episodes. You're getting more than that. So
yeah, I thought it was 6, but it's 8. We got 4 more.
Exciting. All right. Well, we're going to get out of here. Make sure you go check out Tim's stream. He's streaming Starfield right now. YouTube.com/darkness429. Monday through Friday, 9 a.m.-ish Eastern every day. Get that Starfield. Wednesday. Except for Wednesday, because we're here recording this. I will say that, Tim, I've had you on mute and have not really watched just because I want to experience Starfield for
You don't have to explain that to me, Kevin.
myself. But I still have a window open in support. And you should also... You should get a cool little D badge in his chat. I have one. It's very cool. It's got this little D on it. Don't you guys want Tim's D? I mean, come on.
Give me your number.
Yes. Become... I didn't know how to reform that. You did a good job. So make sure you go follow Tim, Darkness429, youtube.com/Darkness429. I'm Kevin X Vision on Twitter, KMagic101 everywhere else. And we are Star Wars and Scotch. Rate, review, subscribe, comment, please. We love it. Even when we're wrong, just be respectful and have a good time. That's all we ask in enjoying Star Wars. We had a great discussion on TikTok. We had a video that really popped off about Balin being Qui-Gon's apprentice, and people were it was a good discussion. People were saying we were wrong and they were trying to prove the timeline, and other people were saying that we could be right. So it was just a good, healthy discussion. No one was being a dick, which I really enjoyed. So thank you for that. Just be nice.
I always get nervous whenever our Star Wars TikTok videos like blow up, because I'm just like, oh man, people are going to be mean.
No, it was
okay.
No one was like, you're an idiot. Everyone was like, no, the timeline might not match up. And then other people would bring their take into it. So it was just a good discussion. And those are the fun ones, when we can disagree with each other and just say like, no, you're wrong because, with information. That's fun to me. Just Don't call people names. It's not hard. But yeah, rate, review, subscribe. Helps us out so much. We thank you for tuning into this episode. We'll be back next week, episode 5, which I think is going to be an interesting episode.
A good one.
Of Ahsoka, and we will be completely focused on that. So you all have a fantastic one, and we will see you next week. And I don't know why my Google is keeps trying to.
Well, while Kevin deals with Google, may the force be with you.